In either way, this is a very serious problem. A very, very serious problem with the conduct of the Israeli army in Palestine.
Andrew Parker.
I brought up the information that we put out routinely on behalf of the State Department, just to indicate that we are concerned about the welfare of Americans abroad, and we want to make sure they're aware of the risks and that they are encountering when they travel abroad.
Additionally, I would like to say that Americans should be very concerned about what's happening in Israel. It is our government who is financing the Israeli military, who is giving them the money for these weapons, okay? And we need to be paying attention to this, not just because Tristan, an American, was shot on Friday, but because lots of people are getting shot all the time. All the time. And the reality of the everyday occupation in the West Bank, I came to Israel and to Palestine because I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to know for myself, as an American, as a Jew, what is going on out here. And what I discovered is that the level of occupation and apartheid-like conditions are much more extreme than I ever could have imagined. And we need a much stronger movement in the United States, a much stronger movement for accountability and for from our government towards Israel. And we need to stop giving them so much money for their military and for their occupation.
Andrew Parker, your response, and also has the U.S. government registered a protest with the Israeli government for the shooting of Tristan Anderson?
Well, I think that Gabrielle is very well-spoken in presenting her point of view, and I certainly don't want to take issue with that. I'm not trying to have an argument with her, but simply to explain how, as consular officers, we assist Americans overseas. At this point, as I said, we've asked the Israeli government for any report that they are preparing or have prepared, and since it is just a couple of days since this terrible incident took place, we do not have that report yet, but we will continue talking with them and asking for that report or any reports that are prepared, and we can decide when we see that what other type of response or discussion might take place.
That's the Israeli government giving a report to you.
Right. Of course, the information that the friends and participants who we've talked to have given to us, we've provided that information to the State Department and kept them apprised of all the information that we're aware of.
I don't know how diplomatic negotiations go on, but given that you have this young man from Oakland who is in Palestine, there was no contention that he was violent. Wouldn't the U.S. government raise a protest right off about the fact that he was shot by the Israeli military?
Well, standing around. Again, I would say he was standing around taking pictures. Nothing was happening in the area when he was shot.
Andrew Parker.
As I said, we're waiting to get the information that the government provides us, as well as the information that is provided by the participants, and we'll evaluate that information at that time and take any action that is warranted in terms of any discussion that we have with the Israeli government, or any modification we make to our travel warning, and any other decisions that are made by the State Department will be based on the information that we are able to gather.
Finally, Andrew Parker, has the Israeli government, has the Israeli military explained to you, as the U.S. Consul General of the U.S. government, why they shot Tristan Anderson?
I have not been privy to any discussion with the Israel Defense Forces since this incident, simply that we have registered our concern with the situation that Tristan finds himself in with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course received a very sympathetic response from the individuals who we spoke to. We look forward to finding out the facts surrounding the situation, of course, and we'll be looking to the Israeli government to provide that to us.
And are you doing your own fact-finding investigation? Are you interviewing Gabriel and the other people who were there at that moment when the Israeli military shot Tristan?
Well, we've developed a relationship out of the circumstances with Gabriel and with other friends of Tristan who have been with him, who I and other consular officers have had the chance to meet with in the course of the last 2 days, and we will continue to see them. It's not exactly our role here in the consular section in Tel Aviv to undertake an investigation per se in the West Bank, because as I noted, that's outside of our consular district. But I can assure you that we will want to get to the bottom of what exactly happened in order to better understand the situation and take any appropriate steps after that.
Andrew Parker, thank you very much for being with us, U.S. Consul General in Tel Aviv, and Gabrielle Silverman in the hospital in Tel Aviv. She's with Tristan Anderson, who's critically injured by the IDF at a demonstration in the West Bank town of Natlin. He was taking photographs at the time. Tristan's parents are flying into Tel Aviv as we speak right now. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We'll be back in a minute.
احنا عنا حجار بيهدموا ببيوتنا بقتلوا بالاطفال يا فلسطين الاحرار يا غزة الابطال الصهيوني جاي النهار ترا 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 كلنا عندهم دبابات احنا عنا حجار بيهدموا ببيوتنا بقتلوا بالاطفال يا فلسطين الأحرار يا غزة الأبطال الصهيوني جاي النهار ترا 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 يا غزة الدم يا غزة الهم نشاركك أحزانك.
Shadia Mansour with the Palestinian hip-hop group DAM. Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Today marks the 6th anniversary of the killing of the American peace activist Rachel Corrie. She was crushed to death by an Israeli military bulldozer in Rafah on March 16th, 2003, a few days before the United States attacked Iraq. The 23-year-old student from Olympia, Washington, went to Gaza with the International Solidarity Movement. She was crushed to death by a U.S. Caterpillar bulldozer that was run by the Israeli military. She'd been trying to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian home near the border with Egypt when she was killed. Eyewitnesses say she was wearing a fluorescent orange vest and in full view of the bulldozer's driver. In June 2003, the Israeli Defense Forces concluded her death was, quote, an accident. Human rights groups criticized the Israeli military investigation as a, quote, sham. A year later, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Secretary of State Colin Powell's chief of staff, told Rachel Corrie's parents he did not consider the Israeli investigation to be, quote, credible, thorough, and transparent. Rachel's parents initiated lawsuits against the State of Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces, and the Caterpillar Corporation in 2005. A federal appeals court ruled in 2007 they can't sue the Illinois-based company because that would force the judiciary to rule on a foreign policy issue decided by the White House. In their ruling, the three-judge panel said the case can't go to court without implicitly questioning and even condemning United States foreign policy towards Israel. Well, Democracy Now! Producer Anjali Kamat and Jackie Suin of Big Noise Films traveled to Gaza last week with the Code Pink delegation and Rachel's parents. They visited some of the families Rachel had stayed with and whose homes she had tried to protect. Most of those homes were destroyed by Israeli bulldozers in 2004. Some of the new homes people had moved into were attacked during and since Israel's latest 22-day military operation. Anjali and Jackie asked Rachel's friends, Naima Shair and Abu Jamil, about their memories of Rachel.
واخر يوم لما تقول كاينه حس بدها تموت توصل للباب وترجع.
On that last day, she didn't want to leave our house. She'd get to the door and then rush back the hole and kiss us goodbye again.